Just a few weeks ago that you indicated that we should still have troops in Iraq.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. That's it.
You made a major speech.
I indicated.
The third and final presidential debate between President Obama and Mitt Romney is in the books. And tonight on the Late Edition, we'll have an analysis on who won and a preview of Election Day. Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Queso.
And I'm JB Buno. Thanks for joining us here on the Late Edition in High Definition, the third and final presidential debate featuring foreign policy and a whole lot more just wrapped up a short time ago here on WENY TV News. And now the decision of who will lead our country for the next 4 years is in the hands of you, the voters. And
before we bring in WENY TV's political analyst to dissect the debate and pick a winner, let's bring in WENY TV's Washington Bureau Chief, Jacqueline Policastro from Boca Raton, Florida, where the debate took place tonight.
Good evening from Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida. The final presidential debate just wrapped up. The topic, foreign policy. President Obama came out swinging, but Mitt Romney was definitely able to hold his own. Obama touted his experience and his ability to keep us safe. Romney often turned the conversation to the economy and even domestic policy. Some of the domestic issues that were actually talked about during this foreign policy debate: jobs, the auto industry, and education. At one point, moderator Bob Schieffer actually had to step in and say, let's get back to foreign policy. When it comes to that foreign policy, here were some of the topics: Libya and the attacks that killed 4 Americans, Syria and the war there, Iran and weapons threat, and of course China. So what's next? Both candidates will head over to the campaign trail. The president will be going to Ohio, and then Mitt Romney will be in Las Vegas, Nevada. These debates really gave Americans a chance to see that both candidates offer very different views of how to lead our country. Reporting in Boca Raton, Florida, I'm Jacqueline Policastro.
All right, thank you, Jacqueline. Laura and I are joined now by WENY TV political analyst Jim Twombly. Jim, thanks for being here tonight.
My pleasure.
Jim, let's get right to it. Who won and why?
Barack Obama won.
Okay. And
it's not just me saying that. CBS Snap poll has 53% of uncommitted voters who watched the debate saying that they thought Barack Obama won. And I think it was because tonight this was the president's wheelhouse. Any incumbent president, they're supposed to be the expert on foreign policy. That's what tonight's debate was about. So I think there were a few occasions tonight where Barack Obama took Governor Romney to school on foreign policy.
All right, so speaking of Barack Obama taking Romney to school, he made a zinger kind of towards the beginning of that debate, saying, we have a smaller Navy now than we did in 1916. And he kind of said, you know, you're kind of out of touch to Romney. What do you think about that?
I think that was the best line of all of the debates. When Barack Obama came back, Mitt Romney said we have a smaller Navy than we do in 1916, fewer ships. Obama said we also have fewer horses and bayonets.
Right.
There was another line where he said that you have the foreign policy of the 1980s, the social policy of the 1950s, and the naval policy of the 1890s. These were lines indicative of how Obama was on his game tonight. He was focused, he was calm, but he made his points.
Do you think that Obama really has a big advantage going into this debate? I mean, he's got 4 years of foreign policy experience, and while Mitt Romney has traveled to other countries, particularly in Asia, he has spoken to leaders of other nations, he really doesn't have the experience that Obama has.
No, and that's a disadvantage that every challenger has. They don't have 4 years in that office. I mean, sometimes it plays to a president's disadvantage. Look what happened to Jimmy Carter in 1980 with the Iran hostage crisis. It didn't play to Carter's advantage. But for the most part, incumbent presidents have that one distinct advantage in foreign policy that no challenger can have. They've been there. They've had their finger next to the button. They've stared down foreign leaders. When Mitt Romney or anybody else travels to a foreign country and meets with the leaders, it's not the same as having those high-level discussions eyeball to eyeball with Vladimir Putin or Bibi Netanyahu.
All right, I always like to talk about strategy and style in these debates. In the first debate, people said Obama kind of sat back a little. In the second debate, he came, a little more aggressive. Tonight, Romney almost took kind of a defense approach, saying at one point, even to Obama, don't attack me, let's talk about the issues at hand.
Yeah, in fact, his line several times was, attacking me is not a policy. Tonight, if you looked at some of the online analysis live, a lot of the analysts were saying that this was a strategy where Romney was trying to sit on a lead. He was being defensive. But I don't think it really worked for him. There were a couple of places where he scored a few points with it, but you don't score a whole lot of points when you're playing defense the whole night.
Let's talk a little bit, let's look forward now. I mean, the third and final debate between these two is now history. It's going to be in the textbook. So we now go forward to Election Day, which is really not that far away.
Nope.
It's really, from political maps that we've seen, it looks like it's really going to come down to actually the host state tonight, Florida, and also Ohio and a couple of other key battleground states. How do you see it, playing out here over the next week, well, particularly on election night?
Well, I think there was a poll I saw earlier today that was a University of New Hampshire poll that showed that Barack Obama was up by 9 points in New Hampshire. If that poll is to be believed, if that's the one that's accurate, then Mitt Romney has to take Ohio. Because if he loses Ohio, he needs to run the board of all of the other battleground states. So if he's going to lose New Hampshire, it means he has to win in Ohio. And right now, most consensus is that Obama's got about a 5-point lead in Ohio. That's going to be very tough for Romney to overcome when so much of Ohio's economy is flourishing because of the auto bailout.
And before we let you go, who do you think is going to win?
The election?
The election.
2 weeks to the day.
All right,
Three debates are in the books.
I've
You have
kept
to make
saying
a
all
pick.
along, ask me in October, and I guess it's now
Yeah,
time.
here we go.
I would say that this is going to be a razor-thin election, and it'll be Barack Obama. He might even win it by winning the Electoral College and losing the popular vote.
Wow.
It'll be that close.
That's pretty bold. All right, thank you.
Ask me again in a week.
All right. That's our political analyst, Dr. Jim Twomley of Elmira College. Thank you very much, Jim, for being with us tonight.